2 months had passed since the sabotage trial. General Kyle had been expelled from the station and exiled from Valkyrie space, but his influence remained. Intelligence reports reaching the station painted a worrying picture. Kale was gathering supporters. Hardline military factions who believed that HFY's engagement to a human was a betrayal of Valkyrie's tradition. The galaxy watched nervously as tensions grew within the Valkyrie Empire. Some supported their princess and her choice of a human partner, seeing it as a path toward diplomatic growth. Others saw it as weakness, corruption by soft alien values. The Empire was splitting along ideological lines, and a civil war seemed possible. Despite the growing crisis, Taimin and HFY's relationship continued to deepen. They were no longer pretending. The feelings between them had become genuine and undeniable. They spent what time they could together, stealing moments of peace before the storm they both knew was coming. "The third trial has been scheduled," HFY told him one evening. They were in the observation deck, their favorite spot, watching a nearby nebula paint the darkness with colors. "The trial of vision. We will present our plan for the future to the High Council." "When?" 2 weeks. "The Council is traveling here specifically for it. They want to see if we can offer something better than Kale's vision of endless conquest." Taimin squeezed her hand. "Then we will show them. We will show them a future worth building." They worked on their presentation together, crafting a proposal that would benefit both their peoples. A joint exploration initiative that would channel Valkyrie's military strength into discovering new worlds, rather than conquering existing ones. Humans would contribute their scientific expertise and diplomatic skills. The Valkyries would provide advanced technology and protection. Together they would explore the unknown regions of space, finding new resources and new allies instead of new enemies. It was ambitious. It was idealistic, and it represented everything their partnership had become. The day of the third trial arrived. The Valkyries High Council assembled in a grand chamber, 12 elderly Valkyries in elaborate robes, their faces stern and judgmental. Among them was Council Elder Huan, who had opposed the engagement from the beginning. Prince Sungwoo was also present, though his attitude toward Taimin had softened considerably since the sabotage incident. Taimin and HFY stood together before the council and presented their vision. They spoke of cooperation instead of conquest, of building instead of destroying. They showed projections of potential discoveries, of worlds that could be colonized peacefully, of technologies that could be developed through combined research. HFY spoke passionately about leading her people toward a new era. Taimin spoke about humanity's desire to be true partners with the Valkyries, not subjects or enemies. Together, their words painted a picture of a future that seemed almost too good to be true. When they finished, the council deliberated. The discussion was heated, voices raised in argument. Finally, Elder Huan spoke. "This vision is interesting, but it goes against centuries of tradition. The Valkyries are warriors. We conquer. That is our nature." "With respect, Elder," Prince Sungwoo said, surprising everyone. "Perhaps it is time our nature evolved. I have watched my sister with this human. I have seen how they work together, how they solve problems I thought impossible. Maybe strength is not just about conquest. Maybe strength is also about knowing when to build instead of destroy." The vote was close, but it passed. The High Council approved the joint initiative. Taimin and HFY had passed the third trial. That night they celebrated with their closest allies. Commander Daehyun, Gardnari, Ambassador Jiwon, and even Prince Sungwoo gathered in HFY's quarters. For a few hours they could forget about the political tensions and just enjoy the victory. But the celebration was interrupted by urgent alerts. Commander Daehyun checked his communication device and his face went pale. "Kale's fleet has been spotted moving toward human space. He is claiming this entire engagement was a human conspiracy to weaken the Valkyrie Empire. He is calling himself the true defender of Valkyrie's honor." The room went silent. This was it. The crisis they had been dreading. "How many ships does he have?" HFY asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "At least 40 warships, maybe more. He has convinced several Valkyrie's military houses to support him." Ambassador Jiwon stood up. "I need to contact Earth immediately. We need to prepare defenses." "No," HFY said firmly. "If Earth prepares for war, it will only confirm Kyle's propaganda. We need to confront him directly. I will take command of the loyal fleet and stop him before he reaches human space." "I am coming with you," Taemin said immediately. Taemin, this will be dangerous. Real combat, not simulations. We are partners. We face things together. You said that yourself. Hera looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Together, then. They traveled aboard the flagship of the loyal Valkyris fleet, a massive warship bristling with weapons. The crew was tense, knowing they might have to fight their own people. Taemin felt completely out of place among the warriors, but Hera kept him close, making it clear that he was there as her equal. They intercepted Kael's fleet at an abandoned mining station between Valkyris and human space. Hera called for a meeting on neutral ground, and surprisingly, Kael agreed. The meeting took place in the station's main docking bay. Kael arrived with an escort of warriors, his expression full of contempt. He was tall and heavily built, covered in scars, the perfect image of a Valkyris war leader. "Princess Hera," he said, his voice dripping with mock respect. "Have you come to finally accept reality? This human has made you weak. Reject him and return to your people. Lead us in conquest as you were meant to." "I lead my people toward a better future," Hera replied coldly. "A future where we are builders, not just destroyers." "Builders?" Kael laughed harshly. "The Valkyris are warriors. It is our destiny to rule through strength. Your human pet has corrupted you with his soft ideas." "Those soft ideas saved hundreds of lives during the second trial," Taemin said, stepping forward. "They passed every test your culture set. Maybe the problem is not that we are weak, but that you are afraid of change." Kael's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare speak to me, human? You are nothing." "A mistake, an accident," he drew his weapon. "I challenge you, princess. Single combat. Winner leads both fleets. Loser surrenders everything." It was a legal challenge under Valkyris law. Hera could not refuse without losing face. "I accept." The combat arena was hastily prepared. Warriors from both sides gathered to witness. Taemin wanted to object, to find another way, but he knew Valkyris culture well enough now to understand that this was the only path forward. Hera was an excellent fighter, trained since childhood in Valkyris combat, but Kael was larger, stronger, and had decades more experience. The fight was brutal. They clashed with powered blades, their armor sparking where weapons connected. Kael fought without honor, using hidden weapons and attacking when Hera's guard was down. He was slowly gaining the advantage, driving her back. Taemin watched in horror as Kael maneuvered behind her, raising his blade for a killing blow to her unprotected back. Taemin did not think. He ran forward and threw himself at Kael, tackling the larger warrior. It was a desperate move. He had no combat training, no enhanced strength. Kael threw him off easily, and Taemin felt ribs crack as he hit the ground hard, but the distraction was enough. Hera spun around and disarmed Kael with a single precise strike. She held her blade to his throat. "Yield," she commanded. Kael looked at her with pure hatred but had no choice. "I yield." Hera stepped back. Instead of killing him, as was her right, she lowered her weapon. "You are exiled, Kael. Take your followers and leave Valkyris space. But you will not be executed. That is mercy, a human concept. Learn from it." The warriors watching erupted in discussion. Showing mercy to a defeated enemy was almost unheard of in Valkyris culture. But many of the younger warriors looked thoughtful, even approving. Commander Daehyun helped Taemin to his feet. His ribs hurt terribly, but he could stand. Hera came to him, her armor dented and scorched, but her eyes full of emotion. "You risked your life for me again," she said softly. "Partners," he managed to say through the pain. "We protect each other." She embraced him carefully, mindful of his injuries. "Yes, always." Kael was escorted away, defeated and humiliated. His fleet dispersed, his followers abandoning him now that he had lost. The crisis was over. Prince Sungwoo approached them, his expression serious. "Sister, you have changed. This human has changed you. And I think maybe that is good. I support your bonding ceremony. I support your vision for our people." 3 months later, the bonding ceremony took place. It was held on a new colony world, the first planet jointly settled by humans and Valkyris. The ceremony blended traditions from both cultures. Taemin wore a formal suit with elements of Valkyris armor. Hera wore a stunning dress that combined Earth fabrics with Valkyris designs. Representatives from dozens of species attended, seeing this as a historic moment. Ambassador Ji-won officiated alongside a Valkyris priest, speaking words in both languages. Commander Daehyun stood as Taemin's best man, looking proud. Guard Nari stood beside HFY, smiling with genuine joy. When they exchanged vows, Taemin spoke in fluent Valkyris. 3 weeks had passed since the first trial, and life on the station had fallen into a strange new rhythm. Taemin spent his mornings training with Commander Dae-hyun, his afternoons studying Valkyris language and culture, and his evenings with Princess HFY. Those evening meetings had become the part of his day he looked forward to most. They would walk through the station's observation decks, watching the stars, and talk about everything. HFY was fascinated by human culture, especially art and literature. She had started reading human books, struggling through them with a translation device but refusing to give up. In return, she taught him about Valkyris history and philosophy, about a culture that valued honor and strength, but also had a surprising appreciation for beauty and poetry. Taemin found himself genuinely enjoying her company. She was intelligent and thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard sometimes, and when she smiled at something he said, he felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with diplomacy. But the guilt was eating at him. Every day he thought about telling her the truth about the proposal, that it had been an accident, that he had not known what he was doing. But every time he tried to find the words, he imagined her reaction and stayed silent. Commander Dae-hyun had noticed his mood. During a training session, the older man sat down beside him and asked, "What is bothering you? You have been distracted for days." Taemin hesitated, then told him everything, about the guilt, about wanting to tell HFY the truth but being afraid of her reaction. Dae-hyun listened in silence, then sighed. "You know what your problem is? You think too much. Yes, the proposal was an accident, but you chose to honor it. You have spent weeks learning her culture, passing her trials, spending time with her. Those were choices. Accidents become real through the choices we make after them. But she deserves to know the truth. Then tell her. But do it because you want honesty between you, not because you feel guilty, and be prepared for whatever she says." Dae-hyun stood up and stretched. "Now stop thinking and start moving. You still need to prepare for the second trial." The second trial was announced the following week. This time it was official, scheduled properly instead of Sungwoo's attempted ambush. The trial of shared burden would test Taemin and HFY's ability to work together as partners. The scenario was complex. They would be placed in a simulation of a space station experiencing multiple system failures. They would need to work together in zero gravity to prevent a cascade of problems that could destroy the station and kill everyone aboard. It would test their communication, trust, and ability to function as a team under extreme pressure. But 2 days before the trial, something happened that changed everything. Taemin was in his quarters, reviewing technical specifications for the trial, when his door chimed. He opened it to find a young Valkyris woman in guard armor, her expression nervous. "Cultural liaison Taemin? My name is Nari. I serve in Princess HFY's personal guard. Is something wrong? Is the princess okay?" "She is fine, but I need to warn you about something." Nari looked around nervously, then stepped inside. "There are rumors among the military staff. General Kale has arrived at the station." Taemin felt cold. Kale was the warrior that HFY had been meant to marry before the accidental proposal. "Why is he here?" "Officially to pay respects to the princess's engagement, but I do not trust him. He is furious about losing his chance to marry into the royal family. Some of my fellow guards are loyal to him, and they have been asking questions about the second trial. I think he might try to sabotage it." "Why are you telling me this? You could get in trouble." Nari straightened her shoulders. "Because I am loyal to Princess HFY, not to ambitious generals. She is happy with you, happier than I have seen her in years. Many of us in her guard hope that with a human consort, she might bring change to the empire. We are tired of leaders like Kale who only want conquest and war." After Nari left, Taemin immediately contacted Commander Dae-hyun and Ambassador Ji-won. They increased security around the trial simulation chamber, but there was only so much they could do. If Kale had allies among the Valkyris military staff, sabotage was still possible. The day of the trial arrived. Taemin and HFY suited up in special zero-gravity gear and entered the simulation chamber. The scenario began immediately. Alarms blared as system after system started to fail. Life support, power distribution, structural integrity, all cascading toward catastrophic failure. "We need to split up," HFY said through their communication link. "I will handle the power systems on the north side. You take the life support controls on the south side. We will work our way toward the central reactor. They moved through the simulated station with practiced efficiency. Taemin had spent weeks learning to work in zero gravity, and though he was not as graceful as HFY, he managed to reach the life support controls and began the delicate process of rerouting systems. That was when things went wrong. The simulation suddenly intensified. Real sparks began to fly from control panels. The temperature in the chamber started to rise rapidly. Through his communication link, Taemin heard HFY gasp in pain. "Something is wrong," she said. "The simulation is not supposed to be this intense. I just got burned by a real electrical discharge." Taemin looked around in growing horror. This was not just a simulation anymore. Someone had sabotaged it, turning it into a real danger. They were trapped in a chamber that was becoming genuinely life-threatening. "We need to end the simulation," he said, trying to stay calm. "The safety override has been disabled. We cannot stop it from inside." HFY's voice was strained. "We have to complete the scenario, or we will be stuck here until the chamber's systems fail completely." Outside the chamber, Commander Dae-hyun and the others were frantically trying to shut down the simulation, but the sabotage was thorough. Inside, Taemin and HFY had only minutes to solve the scenario before the heat and electrical dangers became fatal. "Forget the plan," Taemin said. "We need to work on the reactor together. It is the source of all the other problems. If we can stabilize it, everything else will calm down." "Agreed. Meet me at the central reactor shaft." They worked together, HFY's technical knowledge and Taemin's problem-solving approach combining perfectly. She understood the Valkyries technology instinctively. He could see patterns in the system failures and predict what would cascade next. Together they managed to reroute power, stabilize the reactor, and bring the simulated station back from the brink of destruction. The simulation finally ended. The chamber doors opened, and Commander Dae-hyun rushed in with medical personnel. Both Taemin and HFY had minor burns and were exhausted, but they were alive. "Kyle," HFY said, her voice cold with fury. "This was Kale's doing. Find him." It did not take long. Security footage showed one of Kale's known associates tampering with the simulation systems. When confronted, the warrior admitted that Kale had ordered the sabotage. Kale himself was found preparing to leave the station and he was arrested. Prince Sungwoo, who had watched the entire trial, looked shaken.
"Sister, I am sorry."
"I did not know Kale would go so far. You and the human could have been killed. But we were not," HFY said. "Because we worked together. Because Taemin did not abandon me when things became dangerous. He saved my life." That evening, after medical checks and official statements, Taemin found himself alone with HFY in her quarters. She had been quiet since the trial, her expression thoughtful. "I need to tell you something," Taemin said. His heart was pounding, but Dae-hyun was right. After today, after nearly dying together, he could not keep lying to her. About the proposal, about how this all started. "It was an accident," HFY said softly. Taemin stared at her. "You knew?" "I suspected from the beginning. You looked so confused when I accepted, and your briefing materials were clearly incomplete." She smiled slightly. "I had someone check. The proper proposal ritual has not been in common use for decades. Someone deliberately gave you outdated information. Then why did you not say anything?" HFY stood and walked to her window, looking out at the stars. "Because accident or not, you honored it. You could have rejected me immediately and faced the consequences. But you chose to try. You learned my language, you passed my trials, you spent time with me, and today you risked your life to save mine." She turned to face him and her violet eyes were bright. "What began as chance has become something real, at least for me. But now you must choose, Taemin. Knowing the truth, knowing that I knew, will you continue this willingly, or do you want your freedom?" Taemin looked at her, at this strong, intelligent, beautiful alien princess who had somehow become important to him. He thought about all the conversations they had shared, the laughter, the growing connection between them. The guilt fell away, replaced by certainty. He walked over to her and took her hands, the same gesture as that first accidental proposal, but completely different now. "I choose this," he said. "I choose you. Not because of duty or diplomacy, but because I want to." HFY's smile was brilliant. She pulled him close, and for the first time they embraced. Her skin was cool against his, her strength obvious, but her touch was gentle. "Then we face whatever comes together," she said, "as true partners." Outside her window, the stars shone bright. The simulation chamber was massive, filled with holographic displays and control panels that glowed with alien symbols. Taman stood in the center, surrounded by Valkyris military officers who watched him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Prince Sungwoo stood at the front, his arms crossed, looking smug and confident. Princess Hyera had spent all night teaching Taemin about Valkyris military tactics. His head was swimming with information about fleet formations, weapon capabilities, and battle strategies. Commander Daehyun had joined them near dawn, adding human military history to the lessons. Now, standing in the trial chamber with dozens of eyes on him, Taemin felt completely unprepared. "The trial is simple," Sungwoo announced to the gathered crowd. "You will face 3 military scenarios used to train our commanders. You must achieve victory or acceptable strategic outcomes in at least 2 of the 3. Fail, and you prove yourself unworthy of my sister." The first scenario loaded around him. Holographic displays showed a star system with several planets and 2 fleets, one marked as his forces and one as the enemy. The enemy fleet was larger and better positioned. "This is the Battle of Krell 4, Sungwoo explained, a historical engagement where Commander Vex defeated a numerically superior force. You must do the same. You have 5 minutes to study the situation, then the simulation will begin." Taemin studied the displays frantically. The enemy had twice as many ships and controlled the high orbital positions around the main planet. A direct assault would be suicide. This was a scenario designed to test aggressive tactics and bold action, which were central to Valkyris military philosophy. But Taemin was not Valkyris.
He was human. An idea began to form.
He remembered something Commander Daehyun had mentioned during training, a human military concept that the Valkyris did not typically use. When the simulation began, Taemin did not order his fleet to attack. Instead, he had them retreat to the system's asteroid belt. The Valkyris observers muttered among themselves. Retreating was seen as cowardly in their culture. "What are you doing?" Sungwoo demanded. "This is a test of combat, not running away." "I am thinking," Taemin replied, his eyes on the displays. He ordered his ships to hide among the asteroids and go silent, shutting down all but essential systems. The enemy fleet, sensing an easy victory, moved to pursue. Then Taemin sprang his trap. He had rigged several asteroids with his ship's weapons, turning them into makeshift mines. As the enemy fleet entered the belt, the explosions began. Ships were damaged and thrown into disarray. In the chaos, Taemin's forces emerged and struck at the weakened enemy formation, targeting their command ship specifically. The simulation ended with the enemy fleet destroyed at minimal cost to his own forces. The chamber was silent. Then Commander Daehyun started to laugh, a deep booming sound. Guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare. The human used his brain instead of his weapons. Excellent. Some of the Valkyris officers were nodding, looking impressed. Others seemed confused or disapproving. Sungwoo's face was dark with anger. That was deceptive, not honorable combat. "The trial was to achieve victory," Princess Hyera said from where she stood at the side of the chamber.
"My betrothed achieved victory."
"Cleverness is not dishonor, brother." Sungwoo glared at her but started the second scenario. This one was even worse. A ground battle where Taemin's forces were surrounded on all sides by a larger enemy army. Historically, the Valkyris commander had fought until the last warrior fell, achieving honor through sacrifice. But Taemin had no intention of achieving honor through sacrifice. He studied the terrain carefully. The forces were surrounded in a valley with mountains on all sides. The enemy expected them to either fight to the death or surrender. Taemin did neither. He ordered his forces to fake a surrender, then used the enemy's moment of celebration to seize their communication equipment. He sent false orders to different enemy units, telling them to attack each other. In the confusion, his forces escaped through a mountain pass that everyone had assumed was too difficult to traverse. The enemy army ended up fighting itself while Taemin's forces regrouped at a better defensive position. This time, more Valkyris officers were nodding approvingly. Using the enemy's own systems against them was clever, and cleverness in war was something they could respect, even if it was unconventional. "Psychological warfare," Commander Daehyun said, grinning even wider. "The human understands that the mind is the strongest weapon." Sungwoo looked furious now. "One more scenario. This one you cannot trick your way through." He loaded the final simulation and Taemin felt his stomach drop. It was a hostage situation. A Valkyrie space station had been captured by terrorists who were threatening to kill all the civilians inside, if any rescue was attempted. The station's life support would fail in 2 hours. A direct assault would result in the hostages being killed immediately. This was a true test. There seemed to be no good answer. Attack and the hostages die. Wait and they die anyway. Taemin studied every detail of the scenario. The station, the terrorist positions, the failing life support systems. His mind raced through everything he had learned about Valkyrie's culture and technology. There had to be something, some detail he could use. Then he saw it. The station's design included emergency escape pods, but they had been disabled by the terrorists. However, the power systems for the pods were on a separate grid from the main station. If he could reroute power without the terrorists noticing, he worked quickly, using his fleet's long-range capabilities to hack into the station's secondary systems. It was delicate work, and the simulation's time limit was ticking down. The Valkyrie observers watched in tense silence as he slowly restored power to the escape pods without triggering any alarms. Then, at the last possible moment, he activated all the pods simultaneously. The sudden launch of dozens of escape pods created chaos. The terrorists could not kill hostages who were already evacuating. His fleet moved in during the confusion, rescuing the pods and capturing the terrorists before they could react. The simulation ended. Every civilian survived. The terrorists were captured, and Taemin had not fired a single shot. The chamber erupted in discussion. Valkyrie officers were arguing with each other, some praising the innovative thinking, others claiming it was too passive for a true warrior. But nobody could deny that he had succeeded. Commander Daehyun walked over and clapped Taemin on the back so hard he nearly fell over. 3 for 3. You passed, you clever human. You showed them that there is more than one way to win a battle. Prince Sungwoo looked like he had swallowed something bitter. This proves nothing. He avoided real combat in all 3 scenarios. A true warrior fights directly. A true warrior achieves his objectives, Princess Hira said sharply. Taemin saved lives and won victories without unnecessary bloodshed. Is that not the highest form of skill? An older Valkyrie officer stepped forward, his armor marked with the symbols of high rank. Princess Hira speaks wisdom. This human has shown us that our enemies will not think like we do. He has shown us new ways to approach conflict. This is valuable knowledge. He turned to Taemin and bowed slightly, a sign of respect. You have passed the first trial, human. You have proven your strategic mind. Taemin felt relief wash over him. He had done it. He had actually passed. As the crowd dispersed, Princess Hira approached him. Her eyes were shining with something that might have been pride. You were amazing, she said softly. You showed them all that strength is not just about physical power. I just tried to solve the problems the way a human would, Taemin said, still somewhat dazed. Exactly. And that is what makes you valuable. That is what makes you interesting. She reached out and took his hand, a gesture that felt natural despite how alien her skin felt against his. Come, you have earned rest. And tonight we should celebrate your victory. As they walked out of the chamber together, Taemin realized something surprising. He was starting to actually like Princess Hira. She was intelligent, strong, and she seemed to genuinely care about his success. The engagement had started as an accident. But maybe it did not have to stay that way. Maybe, just maybe, something real could grow from this impossible situation. Behind them, Prince Sungwoo watched them leave, his expression dark. He had failed to end the engagement, and his sister seemed more attached to the human than ever. This was not over, not by far. The emergency meeting lasted 4 hours. Taemin sat in a conference room while Ambassador Ji-won argued with Earth officials through video screens, while Valkyrie's cultural experts were pulled from their beds across the galaxy, while lawyers debated the legal implications of an accidental alien marriage proposal. Through it all, Taemin just felt numb. The engagement cannot be broken, said Dr. Park, an elderly xenoanthropologist who had studied the Valkyries for 30 years. His face on the screen looked grave. In their culture, such a proposal is a sacred bond. To reject it now would be seen as a deliberate insult. The Valkyries have gone to war over less. But he did not mean to propose, Ambassador Ji-won argued. That does not matter to them. Intent is less important than action. He performed the ritual. She accepted. In their eyes, they are now betrothed. A government official from Earth, a stern woman named Director Han, spoke up. What are the consequences if we try to end this engagement? Dr. Park sighed. At best, the Valkyrie Empire would cut all diplomatic ties with humanity. At worst, they might consider it an act of war. They are a warrior culture. Honor is everything to them. Director Han looked at Tai Min. Her expression was not sympathetic. Then it seems we have no choice. Taemin, you will continue with this engagement. The alliance with the Valkyrie Empire is too important to lose. Taemin finally found his voice. For how long? Valkyrie engagements last one of their years before the bonding ceremony. That is about 14 Earth months. During that time, you will need to prove yourself worthy through traditional trials. If you fail the trials, the engagement can be ended without dishonor. And if I pass them, then you marry an alien princess and become a royal consort of one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. Dr. Park smiled slightly. There are worse fates. Taemin put his head in his hands. 14 months. 14 months of pretending to be engaged to someone he had just met. Someone who was not even human. Someone who apparently thought he was brave and romantic, when really he was just following bad instructions. The meeting ended with a plan. Taemin would be given intensive training in Valkyrie's culture, customs, and language. He would be assigned an instructor, a military attaché named Commander Dae-hyun, who had spent years working with the Valkyrie military. And he would need to spend time with Princess Hyera to make the engagement appear genuine. When Tai Min finally left the conference room, he found Commander Dae-hyun waiting for him in the hallway. The man was tall and muscular, with a square jaw and an expression that suggested he found something very funny. So you are the fool who accidentally proposed to a princess, Dae-hyun said, grinning widely. This is the best thing I have heard all year. I am glad you find it amusing, Taemin said bitterly. Oh, I do. But I am also here to help you survive it. Dae-hyun clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. The Valkyries respect strength and cleverness. You are going to need both. Training starts tomorrow at 0600 hours. Do not be late. That night Taemin could not sleep. He kept thinking about Princess Hyera's expression when she had accepted his proposal. She had looked genuinely pleased. Happy even. Did she know it was an accident? Or did she truly believe he had proposed on purpose? The next morning came too early. Commander Dae-hyun was merciless, drilling Taemin on Valkyrie's customs, language, and cultural expectations. The Valkyries were a warrior species, born on a harsh planet where only the strong survived. They valued courage, honor, and martial skill above all else. They had built an empire through military might, and their society was structured around warfare. As the princess's betrothed, you will need to pass 3 traditional trials, Dae-hyun explained. These trials prove you are worthy of joining the royal family. The first trial tests your strategic mind. The second tests your ability to work with your partner. The third tests your vision for the future. And if I fail, then the engagement ends and you go back to being a simple diplomat, though you would probably be transferred somewhere far from any Valkyrie presence. Taemin spent his mornings training with Dae-hyun and his afternoons in language lessons. The Valkyrie language was harsh and complex, full of sounds that human throats were not designed to make. But he practiced until his throat hurt, determined to at least communicate properly with his accidental fiancée. 3 days after the proposal, Princess Hyera requested a private meeting. Taemin's hands were sweating as he was escorted to her quarters by stone-faced guards. The room was decorated in Valkyrie style, with weapons mounted on the walls and dark metal furniture. Hyera stood by a large window showing the stars, still wearing her ceremonial armor. You have been avoiding me, she said without turning around. I have been training, Your Highness. Commander Dae-hyun is very demanding. Dae-hyun is a good warrior. I am glad he is helping you. She finally turned to face him. But you have not answered my question. Why do you avoid me? Taemin struggled to find words. This engagement is very sudden. I'm still trying to understand what happened. Hyera studied him with those intense violet eyes. You regret your proposal. I did not expect it to happen this way, he said carefully. She moved closer and Taemin forced himself not to step back. She was taller than him and her presence was commanding. I will tell you a secret, Taemin. I was going to be married soon. An arranged marriage to General Kale, a powerful warrior from another Valkyrie house. He is brutal and ambitious. My father believed the marriage would strengthen his political position. But you did not want to marry him? I did not. Kale sees me as a path to power, nothing more. He would use our marriage to take control of the empire and lead us into endless wars. She looked back at the stars. When you made your proposal, I saw a chance to escape, a chance to choose my own path. Perhaps that was selfish of me. Taman felt a wave of sympathy. She was trapped by duty just like he was now. It was not selfish. Everyone should have the right to choose their future. She smiled at him, a real smile that made her face soften. You are different from Valkyris males. They would never say such things. Tell me about Earth, tell me about humans. They talked for 2 hours. Taman told her about Earth's history, about human culture and art and literature. He told her about the concept of romantic love, which seemed to fascinate her. Valkyris marriages were traditionally arranged for political or military advantage. The idea of marrying for love was almost alien to her. Your species is strange, she said, but she was smiling. Weak bodies, but strong emotions. It is interesting. We are not all weak, Taman protested. Compared to Valkyris, yes, you are weak, but that is not an insult. You have other strengths. Your creativity, your different way of thinking. That is why I find you interesting. Before Tamin could respond, an alarm sounded. Prince Sungwoo burst into the room, his expression angry. Sister, I have spoken with the High Council. They have agreed to let me administer the first trial immediately. If this human fails, your engagement ends. Hira's expression turned cold. That is not how it works, brother. The trials are meant to be spaced out over months. The Council has made an exception. They want to know if this human is truly worthy, or if you have made a terrible mistake. Sungwoo looked at Taiman with disgust. The trial will take place tomorrow. Prepare yourself, human. You will face our greatest military scenarios, and when you fail, my sister will be free of this ridiculous engagement. After Sungwoo left, Hira turned to Taiman, worry clear on her face. I am sorry. My brother does not trust humans. He believes you will embarrass me. Maybe he is right, Taman said quietly. I am not a warrior. I do not know anything about military strategy. Hira placed a hand on his shoulder, and he felt the strength in her grip. Then you will learn tonight. I will help you. And tomorrow you will show my brother that humans should not be underestimated. Taman looked at her determined face and felt something stir in his chest. She believed in him. This alien princess who barely knew him actually believed he could succeed. And maybe, just maybe, he could prove her right. Taman stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his diplomatic uniform for the 5th time. His hands were shaking slightly, and he cursed himself for being so nervous. It was just another diplomatic assignment, he told himself. Just another day of making sure alien guests felt welcome at the Horizon's gate station. Nothing could go wrong if he followed the briefing materials exactly. The year was 2247. And humanity had finally joined the Galactic Coalition after decades of development. Taman had been promoted from his position as a xenoanthropologist to cultural liaison just 6 months ago, and he was determined to prove he deserved it. Today he was responsible for greeting the Valkyris Empire delegation, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. He picked up the small decorative stone from his desk, a piece of polished jade from Earth. According to his briefing, presenting a mineral gift with both hands extended was a sign of respect in Valkyris culture. He had practiced the gesture dozens of times. Palms up, stone in the center, slight bow of the head. Simple enough. Ambassador Ji-Wan appeared at his door, her expression stern as always. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The Valkyris delegation is docking in 10 minutes. Are you ready? Yes, Ambassador. I have reviewed all the protocols 3 times. Good. The Valkyris take ceremony seriously. One mistake could set back diplomatic relations by years. No pressure. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Taman swallowed hard and followed her to the docking bay. The massive doors were already opening, revealing the sleek black ship of the Valkyris delegation. As the airlock connected, Taman took his position slightly behind the ambassador, the jade stone carefully held in his jacket pocket. The first to emerge was a tall warrior in dark armor, his silver blue skin marked with ceremonial tattoos. Behind him came more guards, and finally she appeared. Princess Hira of the Valkyris Empire was not what Taman expected. The briefing had mentioned she was the crown princess, but he had imagined someone harsh and militaristic. Instead, she moved with elegant grace, her silver blue skin seeming to shimmer under the station lights. She wore armor, yes, but it was decorated with intricate designs that looked more like art than military equipment. Her eyes were a striking violet color, and when they swept across the welcoming party, Taman felt his breath catch. Ambassador Jiwan stepped forward and delivered the formal greeting in perfect Valkyris language. Princess Hyra responded with equal formality, her voice melodic despite the harsh-sounding alien words. Then the ambassador gestured to Taimin. "This is Taimin, our cultural liaison. He will ensure your comfort during your stay." Taimin stepped forward, his heart pounding. This was it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the jade stone. He extended both hands, palms up, with the stone resting in the center, just as he had practiced. He bowed his head slightly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Taimin heard a sharp gasp from one of the Valkyris warriors. He looked up and saw Princess Hyra staring at him with wide eyes, her violet gaze intense and unreadable. The entire Valkyris delegation had gone completely silent. Had he done something wrong? Panic started to rise in his chest. He glanced at Ambassador Jiwan, but she looked just as confused as he felt. Then Princess Hira's expression changed. Her eyes softened and a small smile appeared on her lips. She stepped forward and placed both of her hands over his, covering the jade stone. She spoke in her language, words that sounded formal and important. Suddenly, the entire Valkyris delegation erupted in celebration. Warriors were cheering. Some were hitting their fists against their chest plates in what seemed like approval. One of them even fired a weapon into the air, causing human security to rush forward in alarm. Taimin stood frozen, completely lost. What was happening? Princess Hyra was still holding his hands, looking at him with something that might have been happiness or excitement. She said something else in Valkyris, then in heavily accented English. "I accept." "Accept what?" Taimin managed to say, his voice weak. Before anyone could answer, Ambassador Jiwan was suddenly beside him, her face pale. She was looking at a datapad, her fingers flying across the screen. Her expression went from confused to shocked to horrified in the span of seconds. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no. What?" Taimin asked, still holding hands with an alien princess while her warriors celebrated around them. "What did I do?" Ambassador Jiwan pulled him aside, though Princess Hyra seemed reluctant to let go of his hands. The ambassador spoke in a harsh whisper, that gesture, with the mineral gift. "To an unmarried royal. Do you know what that means in Valkyris culture?" Taimin shook his head, dread filling his stomach. "It is their traditional marriage proposal ritual. You just proposed to the crown princess of the Valkyris Empire, and she accepted." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Taimin stared at the ambassador, then at the celebrating Valkyris warriors, then at Princess Hyra, who was watching him with those violet eyes and that small, pleased smile. "But I did not mean to," he said weakly. "The briefing material said it was just a respectful greeting. Your briefing materials were clearly outdated or incomplete. And it does not matter what you meant. In Valkyris culture, such proposals are sacred. Breaking an engagement is one of the worst insults possible. If you reject her now, it could start a war." Taimin felt like he might faint. A war. He might accidentally start a war because of outdated briefing materials and a pretty stone from Earth. Princess Hyra approached them again, speaking in careful English. "You look troubled, my brave suitor. Do you not wish to join with me? I am just surprised, Your Highness," Taimin stammered. "This is very sudden." She tilted her head, studying him. "Is this not how humans show boldness? You approached me directly before any negotiation or arrangement. I found it very brave, very romantic." She said the last word carefully, as if it was new to her. Behind her, a younger Valkyris male stepped forward, his expression dark. "Sister, are you certain about this? This human seems weak. He is not even a warrior." "Brother Sungwoo, I have made my choice." The proposal was given and accepted. "It is done." Princess Hyra's voice became firm, commanding. Prince Sungwoo glared at Taimin with obvious disgust before stepping back. Ambassador Jiwan was already on her communication device, probably contacting Earth government officials. She looked at Taimin with something like pity. "We need to discuss this in private, now." As they moved toward a conference room, the Valkyris delegation still celebrating behind them, Taimin looked back at Princess Hyra one more time. She was watching him leave, and she looked genuinely happy. He had come to work today thinking it would be a simple diplomatic greeting. Instead, he had accidentally proposed marriage to an alien princess. And somehow, impossibly, she had said yes. His life would never be the same again.